All right, good morning and welcome to the show. This is the Weekly Jargon. I am Jose Rodriguez.
And Rohi Zachariah.
And today, Rohi, we're going to provide a topic that I think kind of resonates with a lot of people, and that's loneliness. Modern day loneliness, to be more specific, and especially here in America. And we'll dive into it, but before we do, any good things happening in the community, Roy? Any specials you got going?
any positive thinking before we dive down the dark hole? It's always positive. I think that's one thing with our community is to remember that around every corner there's something probably good going on. And the weather is always great here in Madera. I'll start with that. I know it seems minor, but to think about a lot of the natural things going on around the community and in the country, to think that we live in a place in our state and this country where I don't have to worry about a lot of those things gives me a nice positive feeling. I'm not worried about a flood coming, a hurricane coming, my house burning down because of wildfire. So I'd like to think that gives me a lot of positive feelings in this community.
In a way, we'll tie it to our loneliness, but Madera being alone as it is, it's its own lone little secluded area.
Yeah.
We don't face a lot of the issues that you see externally out there, right? We're not seeing a lot of the hype, although it impacts people based on what they see on social media, what they read. Obviously, with floods, we really don't get big floods here. We get droughts.
Yeah,
something that we
I left
do
the hose on
experience.
the other day. It kind of flooded a little bit. So.
Yeah, and earthquakes and big natural disasters. Obviously fires are not too far from here, but again, in Madera here where we're at, somewhat secluded from that.
Yeah.
But it still penetrates when it comes to loneliness. So let's dive into that. And that's the topic of today is modern day loneliness, especially in America. What does that look like? How do we identify it, and why have we developed this, what a Surgeon General calls now an epidemic?
Yeah.
And almost to where it's wanting to link it closer to like smoking, right? Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that could be a little excessive to call it that. But again, obviously there's probably various levels of loneliness for people to experience. It all starts with understanding that, as humans, we want interaction. And on the way here, thinking about a lot of the terms we use, like, have you been living under a rock, or you've been living under a cave, in a way of kind of describing that we came from this lifestyle of isolation as maybe cavemen, right? Like you say cavemen, you think one guy who lives in a cave by himself comes out to eat and goes back in. And really that's not what it was. We lived in caves together, for safety, but we still had this close-knit society, and then as populations grew, those, societies grew, but we still, because of a reliance on one another for survival, we still had to have interaction and connection with one another. There still had to be that social part that came together to keep us alive. We couldn't just be like, I'm on my own, I'm going to kill my own thing, and then populate a little bit to have, this thing, and then I'm going to, continue my lifestyle. No, you need each other to kind of survive. So
yeah, and it's funny because you say like, cavemen, and modern day folks, or even males for that matter, are always looking the den, the man cave, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And there's times that you want to be alone, right?
Yeah.
There's times a man or maybe a woman or whatever gender wants to be alone, right? They want to be alone and they want to have their own time, but to the point where it becomes a chronic issue, depression.
Yeah.
You start seeing less connectivity with folks, and we start looking at the cultural shifts that have taken place over the last decades, right? And one of the bigger things that we can identify, and we talked about this before, is probably the technological shift that we've seen, right?
Yeah.
More prevalent during COVID and moving forward. Now, did COVID really have a big impact, or was this already something underway? COVID just happened to say, you know what? We're going to go remotely, and we're going to have less connection. I'm sure it exacerbated the issue there. And now, especially with this new generation, I think you may see this moving forward, where loneliness may become, it may be a chronic mental illness at some point, because, again, being isolated from what we grew up with. I mean, at least I can remember that community was always a sense of belonging, a sense of being with people, right? And if you were seen as a loner, you almost were seen as somebody that was isolated, but you didn't want to be part of it. You made that decision. But now it seems like, folks, it's not so much a decision, it's just a matter of a cultural shift that now you are being isolated by these societal shifts.
Yeah, I think, and it's, there was a commercial that's running right now, and I can't remember the internet provider, but it goes along with a lot of what you're talking about, which is, at the end, it's a guy and a girl, and you can assume the relationship there, but the sad part is, if you really kind of think of the underlying message, is at the end he says, I'd rather go to sleep with internet than have a couch, because they're talking about moving, and what's the priority in that moving is that they want the internet because they somehow need that connectivity versus over the couch. And I know on the surface level, it kind of makes sense, because we say like, I want to be able to watch my TV or stream or talk to people. But on the darker side, it gets you to understand that we're not talking about, there wasn't just one guy in this conversation. There was a guy and a girl. So again, you assume that they're married. There's a relationship, that you have somebody physically who is next to you in that same house that you would rather be connected with somebody else remotely, through a digital platform, than saying, no, I want my couch because I want to have a couch to be able to sit together with this one person, And I know that's probably like a maybe a little bit darker spin on that take, but that's kind of what you get out of it is, who cares about the internet? Like, if I have somebody physically next to me, that should take the priority over saying, well, I want to be able to connect with YouTube or my buddies or whoever, through this digital means, So I don't know. Again, it's probably a little bit of a darker message that people might not pull out of it, but that's kind of what I got of that commercial.
So and that's a great example there, Rohi. And when I look at folks today, you don't really ponder on the idea of hey, are we that lonely, until you really look at it, and you look at it through a microscope, and you may say, wow, maybe we are. Maybe we're just too entertained with other things to really have that deep thought and say, man, we have shifted. And some of the times, Roy, I feel like I am most productive in the morning. I feel like more energetic, and it could be to the coffee. Obviously, we live with drugs. Whether it's for some folks, it may be a smoke. Yeah. For others, it may be caffeine. It may be alcohol. Whatever the case, gets you up and running. But there's something that motivates you throughout the day. But what happens when you're coming down on that effect, right? That crash, so to speak, and then you're having to deal with, with you. Mm-hmm. Like, are you comfortable under that skin? Are you really that sociable? And then you start doubting, and you start seeing, well, shit. I mean, damn, I have all these hours left. What to do, right? How do I engage? How do I put myself to use so that I don't feel this sense of loneliness? And I think you see that in a lot of people, that they find something to keep themselves busy. Mm-hmm. Because one thing I do see with older folks, especially when they lose a spouse or they stop working, is they start going through a sense of like, well, maybe self-worth. I'm no longer useful. And I'm not saying this for all folks, but these are some examples of people that I've witnessed kind of decline a little bit in their productivity because of their self-worth sometimes, so to speak, right? Because you've worked for in this job for over 50 years. You've had a routine that you do every day, Monday through Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Kids are gone, you're empty nesters, your wife has passed away. Now what? Yeah. Right? And I think, I mean, it's not just those folks that are going through that. There's different demographics, but it's more prevalent for me, at least what I see. I see this more on older folks. But I'm also concerned about the younger generation. because one, they're being somewhat segregated to social media, individualism, do it for yourself, and the sense of community, congregation, all those things, clubs.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing that, Rohi.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing that unfold not only with my own children, but also I see it amongst other youth.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you say like the older guys. I mean, I know a lot of the older guys that are customers. They have the coffee group. And that common core of people are the people you're talking about. Guys that they've lost a spouse, they're retired, but they need something every morning to wake up to, and that's kind of the routine. Is they wake up, they go meet at McDonald's, they get coffee with one another, they maybe get a little food there. And then they just socialize. They talk about the news and they talk about their day and what's going on, because that's what they kind of need obviously, for one, they need it at a cognitive level. They need to be able to talk to people so they don't have that decline. But again, it's a way to give yourself purpose. I know some of the like older ladies, they would have like the knitting or the sewing clubs. I mean, that was kind of like their outlet, But like you said, it's the generational gap that says, you're not seeing that being picked up by the younger generations. In fact, the modernization right now is where they're already finding people who are getting hooked on like talking to the AI, because AI can have this feel of being somewhat of a person. And there's a lot of things that are like when talking to some of these bots that can feel like, they're your best friend, they're on your side, they're kind of always agreeing with you. And they're already having a mental term for these people because it's leading to some bad areas. But then you're also seeing things like even in like these new like sex bots where guys or girl or whoever they want somebody they can communicate with, but they don't want to have that fear of it's a human. There's this emotional side, there's the rejection side. So they're gonna satisfy every need, which is communicating, because this robot can talk to them, and their sexual need, because it can provide for that as well. And then now we go back to, I don't need to come out. I can self-satisfy, and I can live in my cave and get everything I need. Because again, if you just took them into isolation, if you took this person and you said, look, I'm going to disconnect. I'm just going to go live in my cave and no communication with anybody, you can't do that. Your brain is just going to unwire. I mean, that's where you see like the people who are walking around the streets talking to themselves because they need to talk to somebody. They just happen to be hearing the conversation inside, and they're just having that inner dialogue. This is the AI world is now allowing that to unfold to where it's not going to have that side effect, because you're still talking to somebody and somebody is talking back, and you're having this what feels like interaction, but it's not real.
Yeah, and again, AI, artificial, right? So the fact that these program softwares or interactions with AI are becoming
sentiment. That's the term.
So almost, but I mean, almost real. Yeah. I mean, call it what it is, Rohi. But when I talk to any AI platform, even when I do the voice, what's on your mind, Jose?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm just like, hey, what's going on? Hey, I want to learn something about this and that. Right. Whether it's something with tax, finance, or what have you, or even history. Yeah. It'll talk to me like I was talking to someone, but giving me only the content that I'm requesting, right? Let's put out the minutia out there. Let's just give me the meat of it, right? Exactly. And I think that's what people sometimes crave is we may see that as a lonely behavior because you're starting to do this more with AI. In a way, it still gives you that. I mean, I don't know if it's an artificial social belonging to something, right? But I mean, and that's what we talked about early on are the cultural shifts that we see unfold, especially with younger generation. Yeah. Is when I typed up the statistics, it did show that men and women share equally the amount of loneliness. It's just how those genders reach out for support, right? And obviously, men being the less likely to reach out to a friend and say, hey, I'm going through some depression, I'm going through loneliness. And now the statistics weren't staggering, but it does show women have a higher rate of calling a friend and maybe sharing, venting out, letting people know, whereas men and I don't know if it's just maybe a vulnerable thing, like, hey, I don't want people to know that I am lonely, that I am depressed, and I have friends that fall in that category, and I've seen I've seen some behavior and not necessarily behavior, but some of the emotional distress that could take place when you are lonely. And I can only imagine you have a routine that you've had for a long time, and now you have to adjust. Now you have to adapt to, man, I'm actually lonely.
Yeah.
My kids are no longer here. And I no longer have a partner that I can talk to and relay my everyday issues that I faced, and vice versa. I don't get to listen. So now I'm just talking to a wall, or maybe the AI generated a voice, right?
Yeah.
So I think those things do carry weight for people. And again, it gives them a mental distress. Like I said, I find myself in certain times, Rohi, I mean, I try to keep myself busy, but even all the time that I apply to all the things that I do, there are times where I'm by myself. I'm in deep thought, and those may be healthy for me, but other times I'm just like, man, I wonder what would happen if I didn't have these things in my life.
Yeah.
Right.
There was a guy who was talking about, why he's given the reason why men are so into like gaming, and it was kind of interesting take, because he was talking about trying to get, because again, I can tell you a lot of women look at it and they go like, this is a game, why are you playing it? This is for kids. But his perspective was, here I can get on a platform and I can, join my buddies. So, get together, there's a social aspect. I get praised for what I'm doing. So as you're progressing in the game, your buddies are like, yeah, good job. So you get all this positive feedback, and you have a sense of accomplishment. And he was saying, and that's why, especially like a lot of older guys, they're getting back into the gaming aspect, is because it's not just a video game. It's not just to sit there and just play, but it has to do with all the social interaction, and again the feedback that you're getting from doing it versus going into the common world. And he talks about like, if I go to my job and I'm going to work a little extra, and I make a little extra money, like that feedback isn't there to kind of say like, hey, good job, you keep doing what you're doing. It's like, you're working too hard. Why aren't you home? So that it was just, again, an interesting take to kind of show like why the social aspect, and when it comes to gaming, and for guys where there's kind of like that, I won't say need, but there has been a growth in like the older generations coming back and playing video games,
And again, it goes back to the same thing, just feeling like there's some type of interaction, right?
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I did uncover is, we talk about this here and there, like how religion, especially 100 years, played in coming to congregate, right? And 100 years ago, I mean, we're talking 1920s. I mean, these are the roaring 20s probably, right? And a lot of stuff happening, but nevertheless, you didn't have this big urbanization as you do today. Now you have suburbs that kind of get away from the urban areas. But I would say that as population grows, so do certain shifts in like behaviors, right? And I think, as more and more people, maybe get away from, I'm not saying they get away from religion, but they somewhat isolate themselves as well. And one thing I think religion did was it congregated people, brought people together to a certain place, and activities unfolded there, whether you're a Methodist, Baptist, whatever Christian denomination you are, Muslim, whatever it is, you congregated, and you almost in a way, honestly, you were forced to socialize, but you were in a setting that made you, or maybe you evolved into being a social person, right? Versus now, options are out there, and some folks decide to opt out and say, you know what, that's not for me. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, again, going back to your modernization, again, like you're saying, 100 years ago, even the religious aspect is, if I'm going to go to church, I'm going to go to church, and there's one church in town, and everybody in that town is probably going to that church, and there was no other option. Where, like you're saying now, I mean, with online and with videos and everything, that's not really needed. It's not, or there's a sense of it's not necessary to attend a physical place, you know. And I don't know, it's difficult because, again, with religion, it's, I know you're teetering on the word forced, but it's really just the idea, I guess, of you want to have a common, like, you want some kind of commonality. And church it's a religious belief, and that means that along with religion, it means we should have some core beliefs, like we should like love one another, we should like not be, you know, doing certain things because that's what religion has told us we're not going to do. So, and I think that's kind of like, I mean, this is way out there, but this is why when you look at the forefathers and they were talking about freedom of religion and the Freemasons, and again, part of their idea was, look, you may be Muslim and I may be Catholic, and at our cores, we're supposed to be fighting at each other, but it allows us to get along because we have to go further. We have to get a job done, you know. And that's kind of why there's supposed to be some of that there in their beliefs, is because, like, look, I don't care what you are, I don't care what you do, but we have to socialize and get along to be able to do business. That's kind of where that core is. And I think it's just gone, again, so far now, like you were saying earlier, which is the message today is like, no, you're this and I'm this and we can't get along and here's my line and we're just going to argue with each other, which means we can't actually socialize. But it's not just one line. It's line after line. It's like, okay, we can't get along because of this line. And I can't get along with that guy because of this line. And so it just naturally isolates it because there's no commonality where we can just say, who cares? I don't care that you're this or you're that. We can still sit down and have a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
That's not being pushed today.
And you know what's funny? There was these experiments done on ants, right? And the reason why I say ants is because what you said there, right? When you start drawing lines...
You got your ant farm at the house?
You start drawing these lines on these ants, for some reason, they will not cross the line. So, and to your point, I think with all these divided issues that we face in our country today, sometimes, you know, it pretty much isolates you, like you said. Well, I'm not going to be agreeing with someone that has a different religion than I do. You know, I'm not going to also get involved with someone that just doesn't quite look like me. We don't share the same beliefs. We don't share this. We don't share that. I mean, there's so much more that we share as humans that if you really look at the underlying issues of why, I mean, you start looking at, there could be systemic and some sort of strategic ways of why to divide you. Because the more you divide folks, I mean, the easier it is to control.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
But again, that's a whole different conversation. I'm just trying to get to your point, is that when you add all these lines and boundaries, Rohi, we do isolate ourselves because this is a social norm now. You know what? I don't have to believe in your extreme views, but I like you as a person. You know, you're my friend. We can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And if you guys can see eye to eye, then yeah, I mean, I'll respect your extreme views and you'll respect mine.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's common interest. If you draw that Venn diagram, what do we share? You probably have more common interest than you do than these uncommon interests, right? And again, these are the divisions that I think our society has found in us and has shaped our behavior and how we look at things. And you brought up a perfect example, right? I mean, these lines, and before you know it, I have all these lines with my neighbors. Hey, you know what? I can't share that with you. I can't share this with you. Therefore, you know, it's not going to be something that I want to share with you.
Yeah.
But no, I get it. And you know, let's talk about, like, let's shift this over to work. Like, has work put us in that deal, like long hours, you know, certain things? Has that really reduced time for us to really be more socially engaged, or are we working longer hours nowadays? Or maybe is it the remote work, you know?
Yeah.
And we talked about COVID-19. After COVID-19, what did that do? Did people embrace the remote work? And I think maybe the older generation, not as much, because again, they were brought up in a very social social environment, engaging environment. But the younger generation, do you think, you know, going to school? Think about the kids that went to school and third grade, fourth grade. I remember my kids going through this COVID-19 deal. They had their remote computers. And your thoughts?
I would say, I guess, like if I was to take, let's say, a remote job, if somebody was to say, hey, you know what, here's this great paying remote job. I think in my mindset, what I've envisioned, I would say prior to like this COVID thing would be, like I'm sitting at a Starbucks or I'm sitting at a beach and I'm working on my laptop for a little while and I close my laptop and I get to enjoy myself. And I feel like that was maybe the sales point, and bless you, in that in today's society, it's gone the other direction, which is I want my remote job because I want to stay in this room. I don't want to go outside. I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to get money. I want to do my job, not interact with anybody, or maybe I have to do like a customer service job. So I'm just like very like, here's my script and I read it and I'm done. And that's where it's scary. I think that's the part of like that social like divide where you're like, that's not remote work. That's like sticking you in a cave and just letting you be in your cave, And that's why I mean like the traditional, like that push to go back to traditional Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, 8 to 5, whatever, and you see so much resistance in the younger generations that say like, no, I don't want that. I don't want these boxes. I don't want to say this is when I work and this is when I'm off. I want to work when I want to work. That's the part that is scary because again, it's enforcing the idea that I don't want to socialize. I don't want to have to go to work and see Jose every day. I don't want to sit next to Jose every day. I don't want to run into Jose in the hallway every day because whatever, again, maybe we don't get along. Maybe there's just this, we don't have commonality. It's uncomfortable because, we don't have anything. I don't know how to even spark a conversation with you so that there's that maybe social friction where I'm at home, I don't care. I do my meeting, I do my call, I say whatever I got to say, and then I unclick and I go to the rest of my life, So the work life, I think it's good and it's bad because again, having some of that structure and knowing like this is my days and this is my days off and whatever, and I think to some degree we kind of need that structure for productivity reasons, but I think in the social aspect, without it's damaging people. People can't interact. They don't know how to deal with the emotional side of like I see Jose maybe crying or Jose is like really having a rough day. Like how do I come be that support person? It's like you're Jose. This is my job. Let me put my tunnel vision on and just go to work because that's all I'm here to do, and then leave. And that's where the social part is supposed to kick in. Is we're together. We're here to see somebody in need and help them out. Where I hate to say it, like if you got in a car wreck, I don't help you. I just take a video. I'll record it. You're over there. That's where our social line has already gotten to. Of like, there's no helping anybody.
And that is sad because most of the time, the reason why we have content on all these video channels is because people pull out their camera.
Yeah, first reaction.
I mean, it's crazy how you're right. How people can just sit there and say, well, I'm not going to help you. I'm just going to record you.
It's not the one camera. I'll tell you, it's not the one camera. It's when there's 10 people in the camera. It's like, well, you've already documented it.
Yeah.
Let me break through. But no, I need to be the sixth camera to get another angle,
I'm getting mauled by a dog, but hey, you know what I'm saying? It's okay. Just record it because it's going to be some good content. You're going to get some good views on that.
Yeah.
And I think that's the aspect of it that I see has become, a trend now, Rohi, because when I look at like America 50 years ago, and again, this is what people hold on to. They hold on to what America was at one time, right? You had a huge amount of manufacturing jobs, right? And just think about it. When you're working at a manufacturing job, 8 hours a day, you're constantly repeating something every day that's keeping your mind away from really diving into this dark area of loneliness or depression, right? Because you have something to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like amongst other peers, then you have a grievance that you can all share. Oh man, the work conditions here suck. Oh yeah, man, I talk and it becomes a cultural deal within that arena, right? And whether it's in the schools, administration, higher office, government, manufacturing, doesn't matter. And you formulate these bands or these unions, so to speak, of people that share common interests, right? Well, they're the workers, they're the labor, so therefore they're going to have common interests, right? Hey, we want to get paid more, we want this. I mean, we deal with it also in many cases. we sit in city council and we go through bargaining because we are representing our residents, but at the same time, there's someone representing the employees because this is how they feel. So the erosion of that has left people, like you said, isolated. You know, now it's more of a, well, I'm going to do my job, because more of these jobs are secular, but they're also very isolated when it comes to like sales, service, customer service. Now they're being offshored somewhere else, because every time I speak to someone, you know, we're going to have some accent barriers there in trying to communicate, right? And I don't know if it's someone from here, but nevertheless, I can hear the background. And the background may be their dogs, their cats, their kids. I mean, great that they're working out of home.
Yeah.
But to some extent, you know, like you said, it isolates them and it puts them away from that interaction that you normally would. Hey, team, we have a big meeting today, safety meeting. Let's talk about it. You know, hey, we're going to have a potluck.
Yeah.
I remember our office here, and Rohi, you come to my office. It's somewhat lonely. And it feels like I am, the nature of the work that I do has been completely remote. And very few people, and seldom, I tell you, like to come into the office now and have that interview of how this loan process evolves and what have you. But for the most part, it seems like people have adapted to saying, nah, I can just do it over the phone. Or just give me the app, I'll fill it out, and then tell me what I need. Because I can upload everything. You can sign electronically. So in a way, we've kind of created that, where I used to love engaging with my clients because they put a face to the name. They know that I was explaining the whole process of the loan. And you'll go through this, you'll go through that, and before you know it, you'll have your home. And that was the pleasure I had in really providing that.
Yeah.
And today, I still have it, but I got to do it differently now. More technology involved, and you're still talking to people, but it's a little different.
Yeah.
I believe me, that shift just happened like this, Rohi, overnight. And the office at one time was full. We had staff. Obviously, the economy doesn't help, right?
Yeah.
But we had staff that was here. We had processors. We had loan officers coming in and out. Everybody trying to get along, working, you know, and trying to get volume going. But there was times where we set aside, hey, we're going to have a potluck, or we're going to have a company party.
Yeah. It's Jose's birthday. We're going to have cake today. Or...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Yeah.
It's irrelevant now.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
Well, and I think some of that, it goes back to this drive for efficiency. Like you said, I mean, if I have to come in here and make an appointment and wait for Jose to meet with me, and then, you know, to fill this application now takes an hour, you know, where I can, in my pajamas, be at home and filling it out and doing it in 15 minutes, I send it off, and then I wait for his email back. You know, to some degree, I feel like I got ahead because, you know, I didn't have to do all these extra steps to get to the same result. But like, you know, that's where, you know, I hate calling customer service now, because like you said, I can tell I'm getting that remote worker that's at home, you know, that has 100 different distractions that are not work distractions. And you can feel like there's a lot of the disconnect. Like I remember, you know, when you'd call prior to COVID, you'd call customer service, there was still, I would say, more of a sense of compassion. Like, you know, I know they're reading a script, but it's, you know, it's like, hey, I have this frustration with my bill. Can you help me fix it? And they want to help, and they, you know, they want to see what they can do. And nowadays, it's just like you can tell, because they want to take the call and get off the call because they don't want to talk to you. It's like, well, here's a problem. I can't figure it out. We'll elevate it and we'll call you back. Like it's quick as I can to get off that call, instead of saying like, you know, I understand your issue. Let me check it. Let me take a little extra time and let's see how to fix this problem. It's a lot less of that, and it just, again, it makes it to where, like, why am I calling? Let me just go talk to the chat bot. You know, the chat bot's way more efficient. I have an error with my bill. Which bill is it? It's this thing. You know, and in like 5 sentences I can get to the problem. But there's things a lot of AI can't do, and I want that human person. And now you see, like, it's so difficult to get somebody. I want that interaction, and it's like, oh, you want a human? Oh, you're gonna have to wait 30 minutes, because that one human now, they're tied up. You know, you're like seventh in line.
Yeah, and And I think it's because you've reduced the human component of it, and you've limited, right?
Yeah.
So you've shrank that down. Now you have to go through these hoops. And I just went through that yesterday, Rohi. I was just trying to figure out, hey, how come my card didn't go through on this deal? It took me almost an hour, Rohi, between the creditor and the bank to figure out what was going on. Figured it out,
Yeah.
but I mean, shoot, there was nothing that I could do virtually.
Yeah.
I need to talk to someone. But like, to your point, it's crazy. Now, we'll circle back to say, like, we know what some of the symptoms are, but I mean, what are some of the solutions for it, right? I mean, we're not doctors. Again, we're very opinionated here at the Leaky Jargon. We like to bring on topics that may interest you. I hope they do, and if they do, please leave your comments, share, and subscribe. Never forget that.
Yeah.
But let us know your comments. I mean, is this a topic that you feel has really resonated with what's going on in America today? And this doesn't just touch any specific demographic. This touches everyone. And I think some of the solutions that I would suggest, Rohi, is to recognize and be aware that loneliness is there. It's there. And how do you get away from that, right? And what are some of these solutions? It's easier said than done, but engage. And I know the effects of engaging when you have that fear of rejection, that fear of saying, oh man, it's just, you're already starting to prejudge of what may take place without really, and that's you kind of preventing you from taking that extra step, right? And that happens with a lot of folks. People say fear could be your worst enemy sometimes. And I think recognizing that, taking those baby steps. If you haven't seen that movie, What About Bob?
Yeah.
There's a good one. And here's one that I always thought, I forget the name.
Go watch it by yourself.
Yeah, go watch. Ryan Gosling came out in a movie where he has this mannequin. And I forget the name of the movie, but man, that's a great movie to watch. And this is a guy that, who knows what disorder he may have, but he literally has a mannequin that he introduces to his friends, his wives, and finally with the support of his family, they get him off that to really start a true relationship, right? It's a great movie. I forget the name of it. My wife and I were talking about that the other day. But anyhow, long story short, I think, Rohi, we don't see the engagement in like these civil service clubs or these service clubs that we do, right?
Yeah.
And that's a good start, is volunteer. I think it's important. Just even volunteering is free. You can ask a hospital, how can I volunteer? Or ask any other community event organizer how you can volunteer and feel like there's a sense of belonging. And I think that's a start. Now, I'm not a doctor and I don't plan to be a doctor. That's not my deal here. I'm just, little small tips that may be able to help those that may be on that borderline of saying, I feel lonely, but I just need an extra push. Hey, go do it. Volunteer. Come see us at the Kiwanis. Yeah. Come see it. We got applications. Why not? Join a club. Go to church. What else do you have there, Roy?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think, and this is, I won't drag it up too much, but I know there are places that monopolize on this very idea, and one of them being the coffee shop across the street from us, which is Starbucks. There's a reason when you place an order, they want to get to know you. What's your name? They want to call you by name because they know deep down you can't fight the urge when somebody says, Jose, your coffee is ready. Not number 34, your coffee is ready, right? And I know that places that maximize that to know that, hey, when you come in, hey, Jose, how are you doing? If they already know your name, right? They already know who you are. Are you having your regular? Like, we want to have that social interaction. And I think for somebody that when you're saying, how to identify that I have that problem, it's that person that goes like, I don't want you to know who I am. I don't want you to know my name. I think that's the first step of recognition. And then breaking from that is being the person that also reverses that and not saying like, let them just know me. Hey, what's your name? Oh, what's your favorite drink? What do you like to drink here? Like understanding that social interaction, as small as it is I think a step that gets you in the right direction, And then maybe you go to the coffee shop all the time and you just happen to sit by yourself, you get your coffee because that's your thing. It's seeing that some people have that extra step to say, kind of look around and be like, noticing the guy that's always there and just saying like, hey, Bob, you're always here. Hey, what's going on? And just kind of wanting to connect with people. I know that's a lot bigger step, but I think those are the kind of things that you can do on your day-to-day that it just sparks that idea that I need to talk to people. I need to have that interaction that's healthy.
And you know what? You're right. And I won't drag this any longer.
Yeah.
We're going on to 40 minutes. But a quick example, and I think you meant to say our partners across the street, Starbucks.
Yes,
So if you're listening to us, we certainly advertise. Make sure you drop a dime here and there. But no, I do get it. And I think that shows that, you're valuable, right?
Yeah.
When you're able to validate someone and say, call them by their name, and that's a training that they do, a coaching. And I appreciate that when I go to a Starbucks, for example, and someone says, my name is such and such. Can I get your name?
Yeah.
And they make their introduction. I go, yeah, my name's Jose. I mean, I'm reluctant at first.
Yeah.
Why do you want that, right? Again,
Yeah.
because these boundaries have been in place for years that we feel like we got to be guarded, right? We got to be guarded. But truthfully, I think, like you said, they go deep into saying, hey, you know what? That's validation. And if I can validate this person and show them that they're valuable, they'll spend more money here.
Correct.
I mean,
Yeah.
we know it's validation, but at the same time, they're after something, right? They're after, well, if I validate you, you'll continue to come back. So I'm already, I'm actually coding a behavior in you to make you come back. Statistically shows that you will come back and buy more coffee. And any business out there that doesn't see that, you're missing out.
Correct. Yeah. And I would say that, just in close, my older generation, I think that is very heavy. I have one of my older customers who went to go to another store, and he was very upset because they wanted him to be a number. They said, I can't talk to you until you draw a number. And he says, I'm not a number, I'm a person, So I think that is very resonant with especially the older generations.
And there you go. If we're going to leave with something here, and it is true, is we're not numbers, we're humans. And I think just the fact that you validate and you show that there's value with other folks, despite of what's going on in this world. I mean, and we're not going to leave you this sermon. I'm not a minister either, but
preach it. Go ahead, say it.
Come on, brother, preach it. But it's true, Rohi. You'd be surprised how much common interest we have as humans, and yet we have so much division. But anyhow, long story short, if you feel that this is something that resonates with you, let us know. Please like, share, subscribe. We're always looking to bring more content. But again, we need your feedback to tell us what you'd like to hear. Again, at the Weekly Jargon. We'll see you next week. Thank you again.